Chocolate and Toffee Graham Cracker Bark is about as easy and tasty as holiday sweet treats go. These are so indulgent you can't eat just one. Well, at least I can't. This recipe is so simple, you really just need graham crackers, butter, brown sugar, chocolate. Simple, huh? A microwave to melt the butter, an oven to bake the butter and sugar, and then loads of your favorite toppings. So that's it. If you're running out of time for a fantastic gift or cookie platter treat, this one is it. And it's one of our faves. Let's check it out. For the ingredients, you'll need graham crackers, store-bought or homemade. I'm using my homemade version without the spice. Butter, brown sugar, vanilla extract, and semi-sweet chocolate chips. For optional holiday toppings, you can use anything you have on hand, such as dried cranberries or dried cherries, pistachios, white chocolate chips, holiday sprinkles, pretzels, mini holiday color M&Ms, or whatever you want. You want to go ahead and you want to preheat your oven to 375 degrees, and then you want to take a baking sheet, which is about a 15 by 10, give or take, and you want to line it with parchment paper or foil, but make sure to overhang whatever you use a little bit over the edges so that you can lift out the dessert. Line the parchment paper with the graham crackers. Now, depending on the size of your graham crackers, you'll need around 20. And of course, you can use store-bought or homemade. I'm using my homemade recipe here. I'm using the one that I've posted. It's listed in the description below with the recipe and the video. And I made that recipe without the spice. It was the only thing I did differently was I didn't use spice at all. Now, these graham crackers are going to be covered with caramel, toffee, and with chocolate. So they don't have to be pretty. And if you get to the end, you can just start breaking them in half, and that way you can get the spaces filled. So it should look something like this. I did a little bit of makeshift of breaking, but I just wanted to make sure the whole sheet was covered. In a microwavable safe dish, we're going to add 226 grams, which is 1 cup, or 2 sticks of butter. And you want to break up the butter so that it's easy to melt in the microwave. You can use salted or unsalted. I'm using salted here. If you're using unsalted, you want to add 1.5 grams or 1/4 teaspoon of salt. But since my butter is salted, we are not adding salt. You also want to add 240 grams or 1 cup of firmly packed brown sugar. You can use light or dark brown. Either will work fine. We're going to heat the ingredients on high in the microwave for 30 seconds and then stir and add additional 30 seconds until the butter is completely melted. Okay, first 30 seconds are up. Notice the butter is melting nicely. Go ahead and give it a stir, but it's not melted enough. So we're going to put it back in for about another 30 seconds. Second set of 30 seconds, and it is almost melted, and I think this is good enough because the mixture is hot, so the remaining chunks of butter will melt as I stir it. Okay, the butter is all melted. Now we're going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract just to enhance the chocolate and the toffee flavoring. Give your mixture a good whisk or stir with a fork until it's all combined. Okay, notice how homogeneous it is once we use the whisk. Now take your caramel mixture and you're just going to carefully and gently just pour it over the graham crackers. We want to make sure that it coats all of the graham crackers. You could use a spatula and just smooth out the toffee to make sure it's on and covers all your graham crackers. All right, check it out. Now it's going into the oven for 10 minutes. Okay, immediately remove the crackers from the oven after the 10 minutes are up. And then you want to scatter on some chocolate chips. I'm using semi-sweet here. You want to disperse them really, really well. I'm using 320 grams, which is 2 cups. Which is basically a package of chocolate chips. If you prefer milk chocolate, you can totally use milk chocolate. Okay, we're gonna put this back in the oven for 2 minutes to allow the chocolate to melt. Right out of the oven, you just wanna take a spatula and you want to smooth out the chocolate so that it covers the toffee. Look how well that's smoothed out. Now for the toppings. So while the chocolate is still hot, we want to add the toppings. So for demonstration purposes, I'm actually going to divide mine into thirds, and I'm going to show you 3 different toppings, and then you could just pick one and use it for your whole topping, or you could divide it in half, do whatever your kids want on one side, and then add whatever you like on the other. For 1/3, I'm going to use chopped pistachios. So let's try to make a third down so I can try to divide it pretty evenly. Since it is a season, chopped pistachios are great here. And if you want a little bit of a crunch in addition to the graham cracker, you've got a little bit of nuttiness too. You could use whatever nut you like if you want nuts, or leave them off. With the pistachios, I'm also going to add some chopped dried cranberries, again, the season. Chopped cherries that are dried would be fantastic here as well. I'm going to come back and add some white chocolate drizzle, but I'm going to hold off because I'm also going to add it to the third one over here. I'm going to do it at the same time. So then for the center, I'm just going to add some nonpareils. You could use sprinkles, whatever holiday decor you like. The last third, I'm going to add broken up pieces of pretzels. Love the saltiness with the chocolate and the toffee. And for all of us who are kids at heart, some mini M&Ms. I could totally leave the bark like this. It is pretty like it is. Anybody, I think, would be happy to receive something that looks like this. I'm going to add one more flair to it, and that is melted white chocolate. So I just took some white chocolate chips, microwaved them for 30-second intervals, and stirred until we have a melty consistency like this. I'm going to start with the pretzels and the M&Ms. Now you could do a piping bag if you want and just pipe the chocolate on. I think a drizzle is just fine. It's homemade, it's rustic. It's what the holidays are all about, right? Homemade gifts. Well, for some people, I suppose. We don't want to cover it too much because we want the M&Ms and the pretzels to shine, but I'm a big sucker for white chocolate covered pretzels. So for me, this is a great topping for pretzels and M&Ms. And when you break this up, it's going to be a rustic break anyway, so it really doesn't matter the direction of your white chocolate. And I think I'm going to do the same for the pistachios and the cranberries. I think they could use a little bit of lightening up for the season. All right, there we have 3 types of decorated bark. You could take one of these and decorate the entire pan with that decoration, or split it up. It's whatever you like. Regardless of the decor that you use, we need to set the bark aside for 2 to 3 hours to cool completely and set. So I'm just going to leave this on the counter and let it set just like this. I'm not going to cover it. The chocolate should be set. Once the chocolate is set, then you'll be able to break them, and I'll show you what that looks like in a bit. For a quicker set, you can place the baking sheet in the fridge for about an hour. Once your toffee bark is completely cooled, now we can break into them. To remember that we placed these on foil, or in my case, parchment paper. They came right off the pan. Easy peasy. And this just makes it easy to cut into them. So I'm going to kind of loosen the paper from the edges here. And now, this is where you could just pick them up and break them off into chunks. Put them on a serving platter and serve them. Since, however, I divided mine into thirds, I'm going to try to do this by cutting it into thirds so that I can keep them separated. Okay, so it's one. Let's cut this one. You can hear that crunch from the graham cracker and the toffee. Notice mine broke a little bit, but that's fine, because guess what? That's what we're going to do anyway. We're going to break them. Okay, and then you just start breaking the bark into bite-sized pieces. It doesn't matter what shape they're in, how big they are. So let's look at this one. The toppings sit firmly on the top, right? They add color and texture. When you're looking at the inside, you can definitely see kind of that toffee and graham cracker kind of blend together at the bottom. Then you have that layer of chocolate, and then of course you have whatever toppings that you choose to put on the top. So the toffee enrobes the crackers to create that toffee bark. You can see it sort of ooze down below the cracker. You still have that crunchy cracker right there mixed in with the toffee. So overall, this is a pretty dessert for the holidays, wouldn't you say? Particularly when you can customize it to fit any holiday. they don't have to be red and green and white for Christmas. Make sure there's something specifically to whatever holiday you want. Tasting time. These are obviously a little crispy. What I find though, if you store these in the fridge, they'll be slightly crispier than if you leave them out at room temperature. The colder the fridge will solidify that better, making a little bit of a firmer cookie. So I actually do prefer to store these in the fridge, but you can leave them at room temperature if you want a softer bark. That graham cracker adds a wonderful texture to the toffee and the caramel layers. The chocolate's a thin layer, but it's not overwhelming with the other flavors and textures. The toppings are really nice in adding both texture and flavor. These make a great holiday treat. You can store the bark at room temperature in the fridge, as I said, in a sealed bag or container for up to a week. For longer storage, you can place the covered bark in the freezer for up to a couple of months. We have really been enjoying the chocolate and toffee graham cracker bark. It really is difficult to eat just one. I love that you can cater the toppings to fit your needs or desires regardless of the season. Thanks for watching, liking, and subscribing. Until next time, make a batch of chocolate and toffee graham cracker bark and go bake the world.